As we are keeping our distance, many of you are finding inspiration to create new music and art. Such is the case for Goddamn Glen and Parlour Bells. We talked all about it.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Well, good afternoon, Goddamn Glen. I don't really
Yes.
know where you are right now. Are you traveling in a time machine? What are you
Yes.
doing?
Uh, well, what makes you think that it looks like a time machine? Because the old timey
A little old
decor.
timey. I mean, your attire is hip and 21st century,
Yeah, yeah,
but you've got a little bit of a throwback, a little noir flavor. Is that what's
yeah.
happening in there?
I guess. I mean, so my big thing lately is, have you heard this thing called it's called bookshelf envy or bookshelf, and it's something like that. But basically, the idea is that now that everybody's communicating this way, that everybody's judged on like their bookshelves. In
You
fact,
can't be on TV unless you have a bookshelf,
right, right. And I
apparently.
saw this weird ad somebody pointed out the other day, and it was it was you know what? I knew exactly what they were doing, but they were standing in front of a bookshelf and all the books were turned around so you could see the paper, not the
You
names.
couldn't
But
judge them.
well, you couldn't judge them, but also what a stupid looking bookshelf. But then I thought to myself, like, all right, did they do that because they want to like, licensing stuff or whatever?
Right.
But yeah. So, anyways, bookshelf envy brought me to this. Yes, I'm in my studio. Green light and go is I kind of already had a little setup for this, as you know, in terms
Mhm.
of doing the whole thing. So when this went down, I was like, whoa, this is my time,
Yeah.
So, so yeah, so I'm in the comfort of my home. I
You can
left the
see
door.
that my some of the pictures that I put up behind me temporarily are falling off. I'm sort of redecorating down
Yeah,
here, and everything is just in piles. This looks nice and neat right here, but
yeah,
everywhere else there's just piles of I pulled out old CDs and I have
yeah,
stacks of posters I want to frame and hang them all.
yeah.
So I made it pretty. No bookshelf right now.
Right.
But,
Well, that's okay. I mean, I think for what you do, you probably want to get a bunch of flyers and posters and stuff up there. I mean, if you were to look outside this box, you would see nothing but like wires, and I mean it's a disaster in here because it's crazy because like my wife and I share the space now. um so she does her business and I obviously I conduct my business here, a lot of virtual business.
conducting business.
Yes.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You're always, I mean, I've known you for a long time. We've been friends
Hmm.
for a while. Parlor
Yeah.
Bells has been going on for quite a while in
10
different
years.
incarnations. Um, do you feel like this is providing more, yet a different kind of, I don't know, inspiration for you, what we're going through right now?
Yeah, and I'm surprised I found that inspiration because honestly, the first thing people wanted to do when this started going down, especially like my creative friends, were, Glenn, can you do a cover of this song? Can you do this? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, look, I know I have all the time in the world right now, but I am just not feeling it right now.
Yeah,
I just, as a creative person,
yeah.
when that goes away, it's scary. So for probably a couple weeks, I would say I was just obsessed with the new sort of logistics of things, just the exhaustion of I clean
Zooming?
up, Zoom and everything. So it was only like more recently that I said, all right, what do I have? I need to be creative again. I want to make music. What can I find that's something lonely, something that sort of fits the vibe? And I found I pulled something from I wouldn't say it's the back burner, but it was sort of like, it wasn't really something the band had played live. It wasn't really something the band was that familiar with. I think I
Yeah,
shared it with them
yeah.
like a while back, but it was just a demo. And I just said one day, I'm like, I wonder if Jay, my guitar player, Jay Johnson, we've been doing the Logic sort of like, we do our demos. We've done demos like this before.
Tech talk warning.
Oh, what's that?
Tech talk
Oh,
warning.
sorry. Yeah.
Logic.
So I'm just gonna say we used a computer
Mhm.
and
You recorded digitally.
digitally, right? And that whole thing about doing demos and working, making home demos first goes all the way back to the beginning of Parlour Bells. Like Nate and I actually wrote the first few demos were, I think the first songs we released were all recorded
Yeah.
from home.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until after we, you know, had a little success with that we, you know, put the money together and went into a studio and stuff. So so the whole so you know, then I continued that sort of working creative relationship with Jay Johnson, and we were doing stuff like that for Waylaid and the Melee. So pretty much everything starts as a demo with me anyhow. So
Sending
this was
stuff back and forth. That's not unusual for
nope, not at
many
all.
bands.
Right.
So you did the first song that you were released in this we're not post-COVID world yet, but we're sort of like in the interim COVID world.
Yes.
The Ballad of Felix Moncla.
Yes. Yeah.
So, who is that, and why is this important?
So, well, all right. So, you know, like I think a lot of songwriters write their songs first, and then sometimes they have to sort of think about, you know, like sometimes it goes either way. Sometimes my lyrics come first. Sometimes my music comes first. This was one of those tunes that I wasn't really sure. I wasn't even sure if it was really a Parlour Bells song, but I realized it's a Parlour Bells song for now. You know what I mean? For this time period. So, so I was over the summer. I got into reading some like vintage comic books. I don't know if you can see that, but it's about UFOs. It's from the 50s and stuff. And I came across this story that I had never heard. You know, it's a true, you know, UFO sort of story. And I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but I do like, you know, science fiction and do I like UFOs. And there was this whole story about this guy that just this Air Force pilot and actually in his navigator, they were in pursuit of this UFO, and they basically disappeared off the face of the earth. And it's a real story. They never recovered the.
So it's like that Malaysian airplane that we don't know what happened to. Also,
exactly. And you know, I think the reason why I was uniquely intrigued by it is that a few cases out there are the ones that like are just unresolved, and that's one of them. And then I started thinking about like what they were releasing lately with the you know, the Air Force footage, seeing those things. So it's like, you know, who knows? And you know, I was really just sort of trying to find sort of a story to use as a narrative of loneliness and isolation that, you know, could be relatable. So I started sort of riffing on that a little bit.
I mean, stylistically, the song, which I really like, it does have sort of that longing sort of vibe to it.
Yeah. I mean, I had the melody worked out. I had the idea. It was like it did feel like there was some longing, some sadness, and it was just
what's
one of those,
next, sort of this unknown thing that we are all in the middle of.
Yeah, exactly. And it didn't really feel like I wasn't really sure what kind of song it was going to be. But then when I was in the midst of all of this, I'm like, this feels kind of like uniquely lonely, and you know, so yeah.
So you call this sort of this work you're in the middle of the antibody sessions, as like a literal sense, like there's no existing human people congregating together.
Yeah.
Empty spaces.
I was being clever, and I was like, so because we're talking about antibodies and stuff, and you know, everything medical that's happening right now, and quite literally, Parlour Bells had just gotten a space at some the rehearsal complex. We just got this place. We had a regular. We were decorating the place. I put up all my rock posters and everything. So excited. We had two rehearsals in there. We actually brought in Alison Sigrist to play keys with us.
Excellent.
And we managed
from a lot of bands, a number of bands.
And unfortunately, we got to do maybe 2 rehearsals with her in this new space before we basically said, and we had a rehearsal lined up, and I was looking, I was tracking this whole coronavirus thing kind of early, and I said to the group, I'm like, we probably shouldn't get together because it seems like every day this story is changing. And that's kind of why I kind of saw all the closures and the cancellations sort of coming in advance, because I started to think, I'm like, why is it that I say one thing one day and then the next day it like happens, and it really is a day-to-day thing. And I realized that because it was like that, it was like, we should just not do it. And it turns out we were right, because I mean, you know, the 6 space, you know, the droplets, the whole thing. I mean, you're in a space with a bunch of people. You know, I'm sure everybody in the band is healthy, but you just don't know.
You just don't know. I mean, we don't know that people are carriers evidently, and
Right.
some people are affected more than
I
others
could be, yeah.
for whatever reason. It's not, we thought it just was going to affect the older generation. That's not the case at all.
Right. Right. No.
Anyone's at play.
Right.
So that's interesting. Do you remember around what time that was? Because I recall, so today is May 13th. 2 months ago,
Yeah.
we had a show scheduled in Manchester, New Hampshire, and we canceled it.
Right.
And we were at the very sort of beginning of the cancellations, and
Yeah.
we were rolling into New Hampshire from Massachusetts with a bunch of people, so crossing state lines and things like that. We canceled a show in Manchester, and I am very certain that the venue was upset by it.
Yeah. Well, their numbers were
we were so
down
much
until
farther
recently.
along.
Yeah.
We were so much farther along as a state. So here we are, for me, I guess it's probably day 60.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, so I mean, just not to disclose too much, but my wife has a client who is from China and was traveling to China, and she was coming back right when things were being reported about how bad it was in China. And I'm not sure if you'd heard many other stories yet, but basically I said, hon, you should probably talk to her about, maybe canceling her appointments. Cause when she works with people, she works, in close proximity. And this was going way back. And sure enough, her client actually was like, yeah, you're totally right. I mean, because she knows she's from China, and she knows how serious it is. And we weren't really taking it seriously. So I'm kind of obsessive to begin with. So I started locking myself down pretty early. And so it's probably been, I want to say March. It's funny. I always go by like March 13th for some reason, because I think that
Friday the 13th.
You know why? Because I had a client appointment that I had to do. I didn't have to be there, but I could be there. It was one of those things. And I just said, can I not be there? Because I don't know. This is weird. It's downtown. I don't know what's going on here. Turns out a couple of days later, the building that I was supposed to be was shut down. So I was like, so I mean, it's like, it is, like I said, a day-to-day thing. So probably about 60, is that 60 days now?
Yeah, today's today's May 13th, so March 13th was when, in my household, we officially started just changing our plans.
Yeah, I know. The Rumble, I mean, the Rumble would have been over now, right?
The Rumble would have been over. The Rumble would have been, finals would have been Friday, May 1st.
Yeah.
So that was certainly weird, missing that. So we have a Rumble rescheduled for the very end of July and most of August.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It really is. I mean, so I had a concert that I was supposed to go to in May, just at the Paradise, and they, I knew that they were going to reschedule, and they rescheduled it to September. And I'm even looking at September, and they give me the option of getting your money back by, I want to say by June 1st. They're letting people I'm like, I really would love to go to the show, but I don't know. I don't know if I would be ready then.
I try to read as much as I can about what's being written about, live entertainment and venues and the various sizes and how this is affecting definitely the independent venues. And they were the first to close, and they will be the last to open, and it will be limited capacity. Will that affect ticket pricing? Probably. It's going to be a whole new level, a whole new burden placed on the people who work in venues, because there's going to be so much sanitization that's going to have to go into play. It's going to be a lot to wrap our heads around. And then we as patrons, we're going to have to change our behavior. And what that looks like, I don't really know yet.
That's the thing. I think that people are in this rush to get back to normal, but I think they should spend their time right now, like really planning on how they get to a new normal, because it's not going to, it's like you say, there's going to be,
we're not going to go back to normal.
Right. I mean, someday, but in the immediate future, it would be beneficial for them to think about, all right, how am I going to lay out this room? How am I going to protect people from others? How am I going to enforce safety among the crowd? How am I, you know, all of these things need to be taken. And it's a lot of planning. I mean, it's a lot of planning, but I don't think it's impossible. It's just that people really need to sort of, the thing that people need to get away from is the rush to get to things. That's my
Well, I
thing. Because
think
I
the
think that,
danger there's real danger there if we try to do that. And I know that we've you know, you and I have lots of conversations. We text back and forth these
yeah,
various things. Um, it's really a matter of how we roll it out. We have to roll it out very slowly and very carefully. Now we have these instances where people are, it's just like people are over it, and they're
right.
just decided that it doesn't really exist as a problem anymore because they made the decision that they're tired of staying home. That's not really how it works.
No, and it doesn't. The thing that's scary, and I think that we're very blessed, and because, you know, people look at Massachusetts and they say, "Oh wow, look at all those cases there." I've said from day one that the reason why we have the reason why you have more cases is with more testing. We have the best
Yeah.
hospitals. I mean, we're just in a very unique part. I mean, from Bill Gates to, you know, so many others. If you put the testing there, you're going to find more cases. I mean, Trump himself said something like, "We don't want to test more because the testing, you know,
Will
makes us
reveal
look."
more and higher numbers.
And I'm
Of
like,
course.
what is that? That's like basically saying, "Oh, I found out that I have cancer, but I'm not going to do anything about it." So it's just crazy to me. It doesn't make
Yeah.
any
Just
sense.
don't talk about it and
Um,
it doesn't exist. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that in mass, we're actually kind of, I think people should try to stay, it's really hard to stay positive, obviously, but
You know.
I think that, that the one thing that we do have is that we do have really good medical professionals. And I think that that will filter out to, you know, local governments. It's definitely going to be, you know, it's going to be challenging, and it's going to be painful, and it's probably not going to be as much fun, quite frankly. I mean, but you know, like anything else, you have to sort of figure out what can we get away with. It's like the song. It's like, I know that I would love to, like, you know, get all of this tracked in a proper studio and
Mhm.
support the studio,
Of
go
course.
to,
Of
you
course.
know, and like give them my money, but you know, it's not going to happen. So it's like, so you come to this decision: how do I be creative? How do I, because there really isn't, I just don't see it. I just don't see the light at the end of the tunnel yet. So I'm like, well, all right, everybody's, you know, we're listening to you know, press conferences every day, all this, like, you know, noise. And I said,
Mm.
I need to, like, you know, I need to put something out there. So that, you know, that's kind of, you know, making do and sort of sacrificing certain things is definitely, you know, it's definitely part of like some of what these songs will be. But we're taking them as far as we can with the resources that we have.
Are you intending, is Parlor Bells intending on, is your short-term goal right now, or your short-term plan, to roll out songs
Yeah.
as you're getting them completed the way you're
Yes.
comfortable with them?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We're started working on the next one already, actually. I have a lot of, you know, ideas that are quiet little experimental things,
Mhm.
and a lot of them would fit, you know, where we're at right now. So I'm just gonna say, let's keep doing these. We're gonna get more sophisticated. We're turning the some rehearsal space, like we're like transforming it into basically a drum studio, so Jess can do her things and you know, get real good sounds. Um, you know, so we're getting more sophisticated. We're all sort of pitching in our own way. Everybody's got a little bit of like you know, creativity to bring to the table. So yeah, we're just gonna keep doing this, and then, you know, the songs that I have. So I had a like sort of rough vision for an EP called "To Be or Not to Behave," and we have some songs that we've played live. Supercomputer and Night Owl we've played. We've gotten to play live. We're not going to do anything with those for this, because, you know, we envision to take those to you know, a proper studio and really, you know, they're big rock songs, so we want to do those properly. But these are quiet little lonely songs, so it's, you know, so yeah, there'll be a couple more, and we'll keep putting them out basically until I either run out of material or we get out of this. So,
And then your mood will change, and it'll
and maybe
be,
that'll happen at the exact same time. Maybe that's if I could just clear the decks of all the unused ideas that I have, the coronavirus will just magically disappear, as he
yeah,
says. Right?
yeah, with the temperature.
Right.
So the people that, your friends, your creative friends, I know I see this with some of my other friends, some are just have been completely sapped of their creative flow.
Yeah. I was too, though. I was too. I was
Yeah.
definitely, and I would say that at times I still am. A lot of these ideas that I'm using, um, I, I'm trying to think when was I mean, I've to have like a genuine, beautiful idea in all this. Um, I'm not sure that I've even seen that yet, but yeah, it's tough. But when it happens, it feels really good. And I once, and the thing is, once you get rolling on, that's why I wanted to make this like sort of put the cart before the horse and say, these are the sessions we're doing. So it just sort of like commits me to doing more of these things, because I think it's going to be healthy for me and hopefully enjoyable to people who like our music. So.
Well, I enjoy it a lot. I like the moodiness of it.
Cool. Thank you.
I think it's, I mean, it's definitely, I don't know if appropriate's the right word.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, no, I
but
mean, I know what you mean.
it does sort of hit a nerve for us.
Cool. Thanks. I mean, I always try to, at least if it can't be catchy, then I at least want to sort of set a tone. Yeah, and I that piano riff I just kind of had playing like, um, you know, and I was like, what am I gonna do with this? And it's finally found a place.
When you get a riff,
Mm-hmm.
what do you do with it? Do you do a voice memo? Like, what do you do with it? How do you store it? How do you save it?
So that riff, I definitely was playing around on the piano, and it's not, when I say riff, it's not that complicated. It's just, it's just,
Just a little melody line.
I don't claim to be any maestro. I just came up with something, and I'm like, all right, I sort of looped that, and I said, all right, what am I gonna do with this? And you just sort of layer on top of that, and so yeah, some things that was definitely not a voice memo song. I definitely have a lot of voice memos, so I guess that's the next step in this whole antibody sessions project, is going through all my iPhone. That's like the second tier when things get really weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I have a ton of those. But no, this was actually just kind of I don't know, sometimes you play around with something, and the music comes first, and sometimes the idea comes first. That's the way there's no real set.
Do you feel like you're a better songwriter with the more scotch that you drink?
All right. So I think that there's a way. So I think that when I sit down to actually get into the process, I definitely like to have a beverage, but that's more because I'm getting cozy into I don't know, the long sort of evening ahead of sitting there in front of the screen trying to figure things out. And no, not. I mean, the thing is, I can't. I can't. If I get too silly, I can't do anything. So I don't. I water everything down. Lots of ice. Lots of ice. That's my secret. It always looks like I'm drinking a lot, but it's a lot of ice and water in there. So no, to get things, my ideas actually happen at really weird times. I mean, I'll wake up with an idea. So the idea usually is something that comes out of a pretty sober moment. When you sit down to work, I like to have, a drink, just this, because I know I'm going to be there for a while. So it's like
loosens you up, gets
me up a little bit. Yeah.
Gets the blood flowing.
But I can't get, I would never, the days of getting hammered, and it never worked anyways. It's just a mess. You can't do that. So you got to stay healthy too.
So I want a goddamn Glenn prediction.
Okay.
We know that this COVID-19 world has been very fluid and it's ever changing, and maybe we've hit sort of a rut, and there's peaks and there's valleys and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What's a goddamn Glenn prediction based on all of your analysis? Are we looking at the end of 2020? Are we talking about 2021? What's your predictions about how this might slowly turn to the new normal?
Well, unfortunately, I think it's going to be a few sort of races to get out the gate too soon. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's what I think, because I think that you have this tension between the medical community and some parts of the business community, although those parts are more politically represented. The actual businesses, a lot of people are being smart about this. I think that in mass, because I really am, I'm really inspired by the way this is being handled. I think that we'll have, prediction is a tough one to say. I guess I would say that, now are you referring specifically to music or just everything?
Oh, whatever you want.
Um, so I think there's going to be a lot of failed attempts at getting out the gate. And I think
That's
that we're going
happening
to,
in Germany right now, for example.
right. And I think that that's going to stagger into the summer. Unfortunately, I know that
Yep.
the Rumble is currently scheduled, but I think it's going to stagger into the summer. I think that, um, I think that by fall, see, it gets tough because when flu season comes around, they're saying that it's all about the resources. So if the flu and coronavirus are still, if they're happening at the same time, it's all about those resources. If you can't get enough people, if you can't have enough staff in the hospital, or you don't have enough hospital beds, that's when it really becomes a crisis. It's like not so much the actual, it's the infection rate, but do you have the resources to manage it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I honestly, I don't mean to be a bummer. I don't see the real new normal, and it's not the normal, but the new normal with all the new rules and logistics, spring 2021. That's
Yeah.
my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I don't, I hope I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but
I don't think
what
you are. I don't think you're far off. And I think it's going to take some time for people to have a level of confidence, not only in, and how they feel about going out, but also confidence in businesses and all of the strict new guidelines we're going to have to operate under. I know for myself, I'm a pretty healthy person, but I don't take that for granted. And I know that a lot of my friends, right around our age, where we're thinking, I don't want to get a hold of this at
Yeah.
all.
I had a very exotic virus like about 10, 15 years ago. And it was, I always said to myself, it was so weird. I said, if I ever got this as an old man, it definitely would have killed me.
Wow.
And it was so unusual. And the thing I keep reading about is the lingering effects of this thing, and how there are so many different kinds of symptoms that it's dangerous because and they thought children were safe from it, and now they're saying that there's got some kind of offshoot. So again, it's all day to day. I just been trying to sort of live in this best thing to do is just read good information. I know you read the paper and stuff. Just feel like, because
I'm very selective with what I read and what I like ingest. I'm very, very selective.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, the doctors they know what they're talking about. I mean, they're.
You mean the doctors who went to school for all those years are smarter than the guy that you went to high school with and still lives at home with his mother?
Right. And I've always, I have doctors in my I have medical professionals in my family, and so I mean, it's you gotta listen to them. It may be tough medicine sometimes, but listen, I'm not going to be one of these statistics. Or at least I'm going to do everything that I can.
I don't want to be.
Not be one.
It's so much a part of the forefront of everything that we do. And I say this, there was, we lived through the pre 9/11 world and the post 9/11 world.
I know, right?
It's going to be much like that in terms of how it resets history. We're going to have a pre-COVID world, and there will be the post-COVID world when we get to the far other side of this.
Absolutely.
Where it's going to really change. The narrative is really going to change with everything that we do. We're going to be like, remember when we couldn't go out, and remember when we couldn't see shows, and remember when we had shows. I mean, I really, really hope that our show performing, live presentations resume in a healthy way. I think it's going to be pretty anemic for a little while.
I think that what we need to do is take a look at what can we do. Again, I keep coming back to like, all right, we know what we can't do. What can we do? Like, what can we do with like outdoor stuff? Can we have like
drive-ins?
Right, I was like, you know what, everybody, I would love to go to a drive-in, and I see that they're doing some stuff like that with concerts. That seems a little like harder because I mean it looks like they're being broadcast anyway, so I'm not sure what the point is, but yeah, I mean, be creative. Think about different ways we can access our we can put on shows, we can do those things. And because there's actually going to be, and I don't like to be opportunistic in any kind of climate like this, but the business person in me says, okay, I have to adapt, I have to survive, I have to retrofit what I do. What are those things? Stop having this pipe dream that, it's just all going to end, because that's the way of thinking that, unfortunately it's childish. It's just not, it's not real. I look at my grandfather, 97 years old, and he knows this is a real thing and stuff, but there's a sense of like safety in his voice, because he's mobilized before. He knows what it is to his shelves in his basement with cans of food and everything are a good indication of how well he mobilizes. He's just built for that, and we got to do the same thing. We have to sort of rise to the challenge, and I think for the most part we're going to.
I think the majority of thinking people understand that we got to ride this out, that it's not just gonna one day we're gonna flick the switch and everybody's gonna be going to their jobs and going to retail and all of these things. I think the majority of thinking people understand that. And then there's always that those groups of people that are just always kind of bubbling under anyway, that take these opportunities to just bubble over entirely. And I think that's what we're seeing. This isn't new.
No, and that's going to play out. Like I said, there's going to be all these sort of repeated races to get out the gate, and then for enough people, I think it's going to become personal. Like they're going to lose somebody. They're going to see the real, because people just don't, once they see the impacts of these things, which they're in a lot of parts of the country they're not yet. Once it becomes real for them, it's going to change.
And the numbers are really starting to change in some of those places who hadn't seen much,
like New Hampshire.
Yeah, New Hampshire was they weren't doing any testing either for quite a long time. I don't know what's changed there, but New Hampshire definitely wasn't doing the testing that some of the surrounding states of even the same sizes. But all right. Well, it was great to chat with you. We need to do this more often.
Yeah, this is fun.
Awesome. we need to ramp up the goddamn Glenn show back.
I was going to say, all you need is a green screen too. We could just do this,
I can put anything behind me. I mean, I can I can put stuff behind me. In fact, for when I was working, I'm not working now. When I was working, I put a big shark eating me behind me, and
that's awesome.
Somebody that I was working with at the time was so offended by it. They were like, I can't look at it.
Well, you love sharks.
Well, you're no fun. I love sharks. Oh God,
Shark Week.
Yeah, I love it. Well, it was great to see you.
Good to see you too, Angel.
I don't know when I'm going to see you guys in person again.
Yeah, but let's do this again. We'll do this.
But let's set something up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and of course, I'll play. The video will be up at BostonEmissions.com. Of course, the song will be part of this week's show.
Awesome, cool.
And we'll go from there. We're gonna roll with the changes, like REO Speedwagon said.
Yes, is that what they said? They roll with changes.
Roll with the changes.
Is that the? What song is that?
Wait, you Take It on the Run, baby. That's a wait. No, that's a different one.
I've actually had a newfound appreciation.
I worked at Classic Rock Radio. I know all this shit.
But the Ozark appearance, they were in Ozark.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah,
right?
that was a great show. Holy shit. What are you watching? What are you watching real quick?
What am I watching right now? We got impatient about, we don't have AMC, so we bought Better Call Saul new season via Prime. We just finished that. Awesome show. I mean, God, that this last, I'm assuming the next season has to be the last, because it's all sort of connected.
I think it is. I think it's the very final one. Yeah.
Really good. What am I watching? I think that's kind of like the last thing that we've been sort of, there are things that I watch by myself, and my wife watches her things too. I can't, that's probably the last thing. Better Call Saul. If you haven't watched the latest season and you can get it, I would definitely watch it. It's awesome.
Okay.
That'd be my recommendation.
Well, thanks for checking in.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Let's do this again soon.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, if you want, we can spin around it. I'll just send you an invite via my.
Yeah, let's do it.
Even to just hang out or whatever.
I'm in.
Cool.
All right. Dude. Love to everybody, Betty.
Yep.
Honey Pie.
Didn't make an appearance. I guess.
Yeah. My dogs are actually surprisingly quiet this time around. They're all upstairs.
I was gonna say, no doggies or anything. That's my favorite thing with this thing. I've been watching PBS NewsHour, And I noticed one of the guys who's isolating, I see like this little lump on his couch. And I was noticing it. And sure enough, like a couple of days ago, Judy Woodruff did a whole sort of like thing about the PBS NewsHour staff and their pets at home and stuff. And I knew it. I was like, that guy has a little kitty over there. So yeah, it's cute.
I that's really helped me stay a little bit more balanced. I always say this about my dogs. I really feel like they've helped me stay a bit more balanced in this exceedingly crazy time.
And what a great time to be a pet owner. I mean, it's, you know, they, I mean, Betty is, she's getting all the affection and she's loving it. So.
All right.
All right.
Good to see you.
Let me know when this is up and I'll, share that shit.
I sure will. All right. Take care of you.
All right.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Good night.
Bye.
Boston Emissions with Angel Wood.